Bienvenue, come on in, sit on down. Now, when I first started this channel, about a year and a half ago, I was doing different franchises mixed with Pokemon. I still do that, but at the time, people were just kind of starting to figure out what this channel was about. So I got a ton of comments from people asking for different franchises to be brought into this system. One that I got more often than any other seemed to be Adventure Time, and I kind of passed it over. We'll find that this is an ongoing pattern with the project. You see, in the mid-2000s, Pendleton Ward, creator of the show, actually pitched this idea to Nickelodeon. And I know a lot of you are now probably saying, hey Stern, you big dumb idiot, Adventure Time was not a Nickelodeon project. It aired on Cartoon Network. Well, that's where you're wrong. For a while, they aired the pilot over on Nick, but they never really got the grasp of what this show was supposed to be. It was a little too weird. But luckily, a studio just down the street, Cartoon Network, was in their weird era, with shows like The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack and Chowder. Adventure Time kind of fit right in.
I'm a buff baby that can dance like a man. I can shake my fanny, I can shake my can.
And so in April of 2010, Cartoon Network aired the pilot officially for Adventure Time, a show that would spawn a number of spin-offs, including the upcoming season 2 of Fiona and Cake. The characters are vastly beloved, with deep and connected roots that associate them to this grander cosmos and story so much larger than just the misadventures of some kid and his dog. So without much further ado, let's hop into today's video. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern the Human. Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that make me and YouTube happy, and let's hop right into the video. For this first Pokemon that I wanted to look at, it's actually going to be a 3-stage line, because the character that we're focusing on goes through so much change and growth and metamorphosis throughout the series. Simon Petrikov, aka the Ice King, has become an anchor being for so many, not just in our hearts and minds, but throughout the evolution of the show Fiona and Cake, within universe as well in some aspects. So when looking at the character of Simon, we have to also look at the characters who came before him to allow the character of Ice King to exist. Let's hop into it. Thanks, me from the past. This is me from the future, and boy, do I have a lot to tell you. We've got flying cars, we live underwater. I'm just kidding. There was a terrible mushroom war that devastated most of humanity, leaving those who survived as terribly disfigured mutants. Anyway, when looking at this design, I really wanted to focus in not so much on Ice King, but on Simon Petrikov, and the evolution of the character throughout the 3 lines. So starting out, I looked at Pokemon who already exist, and found that we already have this really interesting getup of Pokemon who turn into this big, hairy, bearded monster. I looked at Impidimp as our starting point, and wanted to make a regional Uian Impidimp, one that really focuses in on the idea of Simon as this nervous scientist type of guy, very grounded type of character. In fact, I wanted the colors to reference his suit, his skin tone, and his hair color, while still keeping a little bit of that hint of what was to come in the future, giving him this big snotty glob coming from his nose, like the coldness is just waiting, lying dormant within him, and his body doesn't quite know how to respond to it. I think that the episode where we first see the story of Simon really hit a lot of people. I know for me, when that episode first came out, it stuck. It struck a chord. That this show was suddenly not so much about these fun and fantastical adventures, but about this deeper story where characters have a certain level of dimension to them. And so I wanted this evolutionary line to convey that. While a single Pokemon may not, the whole line is going to give a lot of that weight to what we're working on here. So far, I really wanted this to reference Simon, and much like we see with a lot of regional variant Pokemon, the first stage is fairly similar. It's not till it grows that we start to see a lot more of those differences start to show up. So here, it's mainly your standard Impidimp with a color swap. I did change the pattern of the face a little bit to more resemble glasses, and again gave it that snot bubble, but apart from that, this is pretty much your standard run-of-the-mill Impidimp, but in brown? So here we have Uian Impidimp, the wily Pokemon. The shiny is a reference to our standard Impidimp, and he's still a fairly little guy. He's not very powerful, as you can see from his stats there, but that is, first off, a reference to standard Impidimp's BST, as well as a reference to Simon not being the bravest or most ready-to-fight character in the Adventure Time Fiona and Cake universe. So, yeah, I really feel like we get that vibe across while still getting a little bit of that icy atmosphere built into the design. Let me know what you think in the comments. So as we press right along pretending that there isn't an icy curse overtaking our every waking moment, we have to work on Morgrem. This one became kind of a struggle, because when we look at Grimmsnarl, he very much represents and resembles Ice King. Both of them are mostly hair. While one is hair from all over the body, the other is hair of just the beard. And when we look at Impidimp, he's a little gangly, wiry guy, very much like Simon. So Morgrem has to represent this middle ground where we see the transformation of the character start to take place. Whereas with Impidimp, we got to see a little bit of that blue in the ears and the snot bubble. Here, there's a little bit more confidence, but a little bit more madness, as we see that blue start to overtake more of the body. Luckily, Morgrem's body is kind of segmented in ways that already make sense. Just turning a couple of shapes around, reorienting a couple of the lines, really allows us to feel like that Ice King type of cloak is starting to form itself. Plus, the overall demeanor of Morgrem gives this non-caring attitude. With just a slight variation for this form, we can make that turn almost into this downward spiraling looking character. One who is overtaken by the madness of the crown, and the entire visage of the face is more so this hypnotic trance, this uncaring type of feel. Not so much that they don't care, but more so that they're unable to comprehend what's going on around them. Split between the two personalities, much like we see with Simon and the Ice King. I do have to say, as we venture further into the Fiona and Cake storyline, I'm really excited that we get to see Simon play a much bigger role, that he gets to be an actual character and not a footnote to the character of Ice King. So Morgrem, in this middle stage and middle form of the transition between Simon to Ice King, represents a lot in a character that in Adventure Time we didn't get to see a ton of. So I introduced to you Uian Morgrem, the devious Pokemon. Once again, that shiny a reference to the standard look of the character, but now that ice typing has begun to leak through over that normal typing. The BST has had a stat increase, and the size of this version of Morgrem is a little bit bigger. The hardest part ended up becoming what to do with that tail. Going from a halberd type of shape to something else, here I ended up just making it feel like the end of a braid, as if the hair itself could not form anything physical, but instead just broke out into wild sprigs towards the end. But as we venture further down this icy cavern, we transform Simon fully into the Ice King. And man, this design was so much fun. Starting out with the first premise that we had with Impidimp, I already knew where I wanted to go with this. I didn't want it to feel like Grimmsnarl, but in white. I wanted it to feel wholly like a new creation, like a monster, that doesn't have that structured body like we see with our standard Grimmsnarl. Instead, this one is fully overtaken by the hair, by the ice crown, by everything that makes up Ice King. This character feels different, separate, so much less human. And I dig that. While I think that there is a certain goal with human-shaped Pokemon, this one I wanted to feel the exact opposite. I wanted it to feel truly like a monster. A transformation unwanted has taken place. And the fun thing about this design is, if you really like this one, like I do, it's one of my favorite of the video, you can check it out on my Ko-fi, which I have linked down in the description. Whenever I have videos like this, I always feel so terrible about just kind of throwing all the pictures into the recycle bin or shoving them away into a folder to just devolve into oblivion. So instead, I've started posting them over at Ko-fi. When you see a video and a character that you like, check out over on Ko-fi and see if it got uploaded. If not, I'm probably going to use it for a future project. But most stuff does end up there, so that hopefully it can live a life beyond what it was in the video. Speaking of lives beyond, I've loved the fact that as we get to see Simon evolve and become a typical, normal human, we find the curse that happens with that in Fiona and Cake. The curse of being human in a world where humans are so far less common and so less interesting. I mean, the guy lives at a museum that is visited fairly frequently, but now he's more a spectacle. The exact type of thing that he was trying to escape. He didn't want to be the maddened king of frost and snow. He wanted to be just a regular guy. And now that he is, he's in a world where regular guys are not quite so regular. He fits more as Ice King and less as Simon. All of this going on with the loss of Betty strong in his mind. When the show of Fiona and Cake picks up, we see him still attached, still trying his hardest to find a way to get back to normal. And so that's why with this design, I wanted to make it fully Ice King and no Simon. More bestial, more animalistic. It feels like a character from a fairy tale and less like your standard Pokemon. Less like something that could be vaguely human. And this is where we break away from our pre-established norms. This is not regional Grimmsnarl, no, this is Petricold, the name coming from petrify and cold, the frozen heart Pokemon, with the shiny taking a lot more of that Grimmsnarl interpretation, and it being fully a normal ice type. The only thing that this sick, kick-ass design needs is an ability. What ability do you think this and the rest of the Pokemon from today's video should have? Let me know down in the comments below. You guys are so much better at this than I am, so let me know what abilities they should have, whether that be existing ones or ones that you make up yourself. But I've had just about enough of our big villain of a previous iteration of the story. How about some heroes? The next character that I want to look at is Jake the dog. Jake is essentially a Pokemon already. He's not just Jake the dog. He's Jake the alien dog with stretchy powers, weird background lore to his family, and their institutionalization within the land of Ooh. How important they are, not just to the story, but to the universe, and how Jake fully fulfills that premonition of who he could be. So let's see what we're able to do with mishing and mashing up this dog into hopefully something that resembles a Pokemon. What can be said about Jake the dog that hasn't been said about lesser scholars of our time? He's a wonderful friend, a great big brother, and a really cool character. One who starts out in the series as just this fun-loving, albeit lazy dog companion to Finn with incredible stretchy powers that for a long time we just kind of accept is part of this world. It's not until we move on throughout the series that we start to realize, no, this is something specific and unique to Jake. Later on, we find out that it's because he was implanted with this alien DNA, which was a hurdle that I do suppose the writers for Fiona and Cake had to get around. You know, if it's a separate universe and in the real world, cats are just cats, how are you going to have Cake get stretchy powers like Jake? It becomes a whole kerfuffle. But Jake the dog is a staple of the series, one who is as close to the main character as you can get. Some may argue that he is, some may argue that he's not, but regardless, we love Jake. He's phenomenal. So when looking at him as a Pokemon, things did get kind of difficult. He's a fairly simple shape, that being a yellow bean with a dog face. So how do we adapt this in some way? Well, we look at deconstructing the idea of the dog that he is and build up around it a Pokemon-like shape. I decided to go for that pug type of aesthetic. As a person who grew up around pugs, my family actually had a little yellow pug for a good part of my childhood. I had some reference to draw off of. Part of that being those big fat necks and those rolls of skin across the face, which kind of makes sense for a stretchy dog. So these were parts that I absolutely knew that I didn't want to get rid of. One, they are very much work with a Pokemon style, those being that they are very specific to the animal that we're trying to translate. The second thing being they are very iconic to this type of dog. And the third most important part being they are what make Jake Jake. So bringing all of that in, I decided to make this stretchy, punchy type of character. One who's cute and fun-loving and walks on 2 legs. So I hope that you enjoy this design as much as I do, because while I feel like it does break a couple of the Pokemon design rules, I love him. There's such a character behind this, and maybe it's because of Jake being Jake, but I think that this really works as a companion type of character, especially one to a little boy who was abandoned by his parents as they sought to escape some terrible catastrophe. I'm looking at you, Martin Mertens. So this good boy before you is Matangle, a play on Mutt and Tangle, and is the compact Pokemon, especially for the fact that Jake tends to shrink himself down from time to time, as well as expand his body. The shiny is a reference to his alien father, and fairy fighting just kind of felt like it fit. The stretchy power is way too whimsical to just be normal type in my opinion, at least for this design, and fighting for his want to protect his little brother Finn. I decided that when I was doing the design here, some areas like the inner part of the paw that could be pink, or the tongue that could be pink as well, I wanted all to feel yellow. Almost as if this Pokemon was kind of shrouding itself in the shape of a dog. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, since we're focusing not just on Adventure Time, we have to look also at Fiona and Cake. And if we're gonna make Jake the dog, why not then look at Cake the cat, turning her into a Pokemon as well? The interesting thing is, they have so much in common, being kind of mirror images of one another, that it becomes kind of difficult. So I really worked on structuring how they are different rather than how they are the same. It's a lot easier for me to show you. Thanks, Past Stern. That was so much less than helpful that some would argue if it was helpful at all. Yeah, Cake and Jake are designed to look similar, but here I really wanted to break out of that. We'd already done Ice King as a regional variant, so I wanted something that felt very unique. Whereas Jake's Pokemon is kind of wadded around itself, I wanted this one to feel smooth, really take advantage of the bean shape rather than move along without it. I had recently done a couple commissions for Azumarill style Pokemon, and so that egg shape was steadfast in my mind, and really I think works for this design. Another aspect that I wanted to bring in here that I felt would be fun is the cake aspect. We have a lot of food Pokemon in the Pokemon world, so having another that felt like it was associated not just to a cat, but to a pastry, felt like it kind of works. Plus, allows me to move away from that mentality that this is the same character as one that we'd already done. So I went in, really focused on those cat aesthetics, as well as those Cake type of vibes. A fun part about Cake as a character is that she gets her abilities in such a drastically different way than Jake. In Jake's world of Ooh, that dimension that they exist in, the world kind of functions in a way that allows for these weird, unreasonable things to feel a lot more reasonable. Oh, well, he's the son of an alien who was implanted in his father at the same time that his twin, quote-unquote twin, brother was born. And we can accept that given the rules of the world as we've seen it. But in the world of Fiona and Cake, and by world I mean the storytelling world, everything has to make a little bit more sense, at least for us as the viewer, because we are entering this world much like Fiona, with just a grasp of the real world and the sciences and physics and physiology that goes behind it. So, Cake gets her powers from a magic strawberry as well as a couple other shenanigans that tie into that, so yeah, we have to find a way to make it make a little bit more sense. Alien offspring parents that grant stretchy powers upon impregnation of the father figure of the household of these investigative dog parents is a little bit more far-fetched for us to believe at the early infancy stages of Fiona and Cake, so magic fruit works. Back to the design, I wanted to incorporate some of those stripes that Cake has into this cake-like icing type of look. I come from a family that was baking, we were bakers, so being around Cake is just trick of the trade, and dirty icing is such an important step. It's where you put icing on a cake so that the next layer of decoration can stick, and it creates this pattern where parts of the yellow cake seep through and parts of the yellow frosting are kind of mismatched and patched all over. And that's kind of the look that I was going for this cake. Cat. Cake cat. Cookie cat. So thus, Meowstry was born, a play on meow and pastry. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, for a while and even in my folders, this was labeled as Pusstry, as in pussycat and pastry, but I knew the comments were gonna come for me, so I had to change the name. Meowstry works. The compact Pokemon, much like our Jake Pokemon, and is a fairy fighting as well. Really allows us to have a very different design while still keeping some of those similarities kind of required by the base structure of the character. And the shiny is a play on the Cheshire Cat, another that phases in and out of realities, much like Cake does when she brings Fiona into this bizarre new land of Ooh. Real quick before we move on, I want to tell you guys about this really cool thing that I've been working on. I've been doing these Stern Conversations. This is a podcast type format where I talk to different creators and artists in the industry. People who have made a mark in some way or another, whether that be on you guys as an audience or on me as a creator myself. We had one recently with Lava Tyrant, a creator who actually was a huge inspiration for me starting my own channel. Really helped me devise the template of who I wanted to be in this space by looking at what Lava was already doing. The next episode that we're going to have comes out in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking to Ron from True Green 7, asking some of those same questions. How you got started, how you wound up here, and what it feels like to really be a YouTube creator. So I hope that you're excited, because I know I am. You can find those dropping on Spotify as well as YouTube. I'll have those links down below because I personally am a person who listens to podcasts when I'm on the car ride, so it's really nice to have that functionality available wherever you go. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are too, but let's get back to the video. But we, of course, cannot talk about Jake or Cake without talking about Finn the Human and Fiona the Human. These characters are integral to the plot of the show. They are the main characters for their two respective universes. First introduced to this combined force of this dynamic duo with Finn and Jake, it was later expanded on with Fiona and Cake. First functioning as kind of our side fanfic type of characters devised by Ice King, then becoming their own independent structures within their own independent universe. So let's take a look first at what we're able to do with Finn and how he grows as a character into an evolution of this stock standard starter. Finn the Human. That last part of the title is often what gives us so much trouble, right? I mean, we can turn an animal like Jake, or a creature, monstrous humanoid thing like Ice King, or things like that into Pokemon, but a human is hard. Yeah, you can break them down and build them back up using the key elements that allow them to function as their own independent character, but Finn is a little bit more difficult. He's simple. The biggest parts of his character are the fact that he is so willing to become a hero, so excited at the opportunity to save people, to serve in some way. The emotions are what drive him, not his look. He is a big proponent of the writing practice of show, don't tell. But in this case, he's a lot of tell and not a ton of show. A simple design with a huge emotion behind it. The biggest thing that we have is his little bear cap. So I decided, what if we make this a little bear cub? Focusing again on the idea of growth, of change, of acceptance and adaptability as a balance to one another. So starting with him as this little cub who's so willing to fight, I decided to give him that one grass arm. It feels very Pokemon and also very asymmetrical. Something that I know personally I need to work on. I need better practice with asymmetrical designs, and Finn is a great opportunity for that. One that I feel I can take and run with. Giving him that grass arm is also a reference to the fact that Finn goes through a number of arms throughout his journey, whether that be the grass replacement arm, clone arms, or mechanical arms of various makes and models. Finn is a character who is, by all accounts, an adaptable person. So having this be the case, a character, a Pokemon whose lore is that this seed or sapling attached itself to it, and rather than be downtrodden by this change, it chose to take it and utilize it as a tool or as a weapon, I think really emphasizes not just a cool Pokemon, but who Finn is as a whole. So meet your new best friend, Teddyfinn, the heroic Pokemon. The name comes from Teddy, like teddy bear, and Finn, with the shiny a reference to Fern, as a version of this Pokemon who's just green. It is a grass fighting type because that just feels like it makes the most sense. While I know that our Jake Pokemon was also fighting type, and I really struggled to find a way to make it fit a different typing, fighting was just where we were at, and I'm pretty happy with it. This is a cute Pokemon who I think brings on that affect of Finn so well. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. There are so many directions that we could take an evolution for this Pokemon. Finn is a character about adapting. That's his whole deal. When there are instances that he can't adapt or overcome a situation, it triggers him in a number of ways. We can see this when he has breakups with characters like Flame Princess, when he has to acknowledge that Princess Bubblegum is truly too old for him. He struggles, but when it comes to the weapons, to the things that he knows, he adapts. And that's what makes this design so complicated, so difficult for me to wrap my head around. Because he gets a metal arm, and we could go full metal because that ends up becoming a larger arc of the series. He gets the grass arm, which becomes a huge portion of the series. He gets a new sword, and it really envelops who he is as a character. So when looking at this design, I wanted to focus in on the grass portion of that story, combining the ideas of Fern and Finn together into this character, and I had a lot of fun with it. Looking at this bigger grass arm as an evolution to what we see in the pre-form, as this parasitic type of twin, one that is larger and growing and taking energy from the other, but still they are able to work in tandem, building this little cub into a much larger grizzly type character. And I know, I'm gonna have people saying, hey, you went really far into the bear format for Finn, but I'm gonna show you a picture real quick. Look at this man, and you tell me that is not a bear. You tell me that's not a bear, right? Okay, we're good, we're settled, fantastic. I wanted to expand on that bear idea with this parasitic type of plant that comes around and kind of loops around the body in a number of different ways here. It builds this tremendous strength in the character while having this awesome asymmetry, which I had been trying to challenge myself with in this video. So yeah, a ton of fun, really gets across the ideas that I was trying to do, allows me to challenge myself with this character in a drawing and designing style that I tend to struggle with. And ultimately, the biggest and most important thing about doing art, it was fun. It's a ton of fun to draw these characters and make them weird and wild, and the fact that you guys as subscribers, as viewers, as patrons, as members, whatever you want to call it, allow me to do this. It is something I will never be able to repay, but I will continue to try and make things that make you guys happy. This design, while it has its down spots, while it has its up spots, while it may not feel as much like a one-to-one Finn as we may have hoped, it still looks cool to me, and it still makes me have fun designing it. And when you draw and you make your art, I hope that you have fun too. I hope that you remember that that's why we do it. I quit my job a number of months ago to do this, and sometimes this starts to feel like as much of a job as the place that I was trying to get away from. And that sucks, but other times, it's just about having fun. So, thank you. Weird spot in the video to put this, but thank you for all the opportunities that you guys have given me with this stuff. And I hope that your art continues to inspire you. It is a weird thing to be inspired by your own art, but it is also a beautiful thing. So meet Guzzlord. The name is a combination of grizzly and loam, meaning a machine that has a dedicated purpose, much like one big muscly arm, which makes it a grass fighting type and makes that typing make a lot more sense now. The shiny is still a reference to Fern or even the Green Knight that we see in later episodes. He is still the heroic Pokemon and grows in stature enough to feel big, but small enough to still feel like a friend. I feel like sizing really, there's a sweet spot that you want to hit in sizing with your Pokemon. And ultimately, I'm happy with this design. Let me know down in the comments if you like this one or if another was your favorite. I'd love to hear about it. But we have one more design to get to. Now, as I said before, we can't look at Finn without looking at Fiona. She is kind of the whole reason we're doing this video, right? Adventure Time feels like it's always gonna be in the public consciousness, but Fiona is the here and now. So looking at her as a character, I wanted to really look at what the similarities were between her and Finn, but more so the differences and how we're able to balance this out, not just as two independent characters, but as a function within a Pokemon system. Let's take a look at that. I think one of the key aspects of cartoons and storytelling as a whole is the ability to see yourself within the project, your ability to see yourself within the characters. Simon is a reserved, small person who doesn't want to enter this bigger world. Meanwhile, Fiona is the opposite. She's big and she's loud and seeking somewhere else, somewhere bigger to be. So for this design, I looked at Finn, but ultimately wanted to give her her own spark, her own personality. Put it as a side-by-side with our Teddyfin Pokemon, and allow this one to not be a mimic exactly, but to be its own type of character. I see them appearing and starting out much like the show does, kind of looking the same, acting the same, feeling the same. But I do see Fiona, as we now jump into season 2, going down a different path. I mean, it only makes sense, right? Even though Adventure Time was phenomenal and it was a beautiful show that taught us things that other media probably couldn't do as well, it's still gotta be a different story. It's gotta be something that allows us to expand upon characters and learn about characters who we can then fall in love with and enjoy getting to see their growth. We don't care about characters who we don't care about. A character could grow and change and go through so much turmoil to become someone different, but if there was nothing there to make us care about them, then what does it matter? This is where Adventure Time, and now Fiona and Cake as it picks up the reins, does beautifully. It makes us care about the characters to the point that even when nothing does happen, you still feel something. I don't know, maybe I'm seeing too much into it, but I know that this show is important to a lot of people, much as Adventure Time was important to me. So I'm really eager to see where this character could go, where Fiona and Cake and Simon and Prismo and all these characters are able to venture forth in the future. So now that season 2 is coming out, it tells me as a fan of the series that there's potential. There's something here that hopefully will give us that same feeling that we got when we saw Adventure Time. When we saw characters like Bonnabelle and Marceline finally come together. Like when we saw the entire troops of rise against Gold. And now seeing where Betty and these other characters who we kind of left off in Adventure Time can be and how they can affect one another, it's inspiring. And it's a show that I have to say is one of the many that brought me into drawing, that got me excited about creating stories that were wacky, about creating characters that didn't have to make sense. And ultimately, that's why I think a lot of us are here. Maybe your Adventure Time wasn't Adventure Time. Maybe your Finn and Cake won't be Finn and Cake, but it is something. And I hope that you can treasure those things that allow you to be silly and wacky and weird like Finn is when he does his buff baby dance. I hope that this character can accurately portray Fiona, even though we don't know where she's going yet. So meet Bunfion, the heroic Pokemon. The name is a play on Bunny and Fiona. It is a ground fighting type for that connection that Fiona has to the real world. She's grounded, in something that feels real and tangible, and I wanted the Pokemon to feel very much that same way. While Fiona is trying to escape this real and tangible, normal world, there still is that connection that allows us to learn about Ooh through her eyes. Still a fighting type because she is a heroic Pokemon, she is a warrior, and the green of the shiny is still a reference to Fern because we don't know where Fiona's gonna go. So like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if this is a series that you're interested in me continuing. As we learn more about Fiona and meet new characters to fall in love with, I'd love to do more, but as of yet, we're gonna have to wait and see. So who is your favorite? Who are you adding onto the team? Let me know down in the comments below. But before you get there, consider stopping by the description where you can find opportunities to support the channel, like these lovely folks over at our Patreon. I've been trying harder to upload more stuff that you guys enjoy, like moving some Photoshop files up there is going to be the next thing. So not only are you going to get access to images of the characters, but you'll also get access to the Photoshop files that allowed me to build those. Really fun stuff. You're also getting access to videos early through posts and links, much like the YouTube members have been getting. So speaking of our YouTube members, these guys are phenomenal. They're wonderful. They've been getting videos early, and if you have a spare $5 a month, you can too, just by becoming a YouTube member. I'm going to be doing a lot more of posting stuff through the YouTube posts system. You see, when you post a video and select it as members only, you're very limited on what you can do with it. But if I post them as posts, you guys get access as well as other supporters. But the other fun thing that you guys are going to get is exclusive polls and exclusive posts and conversations just for YouTube members. It's really cool and really fun for me to get to interact with the community in this way. Another fun thing that we have right now is I have been working like an absolute madman to fill up our merch shop. So if you like weird and existential horror, these sweaters and long sleeves and t-shirts are for you. Some of them are inside jokes from our Discord or live streams, but ultimately, I just really like the designs, and it's not just because most of them are my face. But if you like Pokemon merch and want to wear your favorite Pokemon, legendaries, mythicals, what have you, then check out these sweaters here. These ones feature simplified versions of the characters, because I'm not a person who likes to wear big, garish brands over my chest, so I like that these are a little bit more toned down and ready for the holiday season. So, with all of that said, all of this fun, weird, diabolical news going on right now, I am so happy that you're here. And it sounds like you know where to find me. So I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern the Human. Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that makes me and YouTube happy. That's a freaking jet. Life's funny, isn't it?